Ladies and gentlemen, there is a profound truth that governs the course of your life, and it is this: your mind is the architect of your destiny. The way you think, the beliefs you hold, the discipline you cultivate, these are not abstract concepts. They are the foundation upon which your entire existence is built. If you do not take control of your mind, something else will. Chaos, fear, resentment. These forces are always lurking, waiting for an opportunity to dominate your thoughts, to dictate your actions, to shape your reality in a way that serves them, not you. But if you master your mind, if you train it, discipline it, and aim it towards something meaningful, you will master your life. Because life is not simply about what happens to you, it is about how you respond, how you interpret, how you choose to move forward despite adversity. So tonight, I want to challenge you to take responsibility for the one thing that truly belongs to you, your mind. Because when you do, everything else will follow. Your thoughts are the foundation upon which your entire life is built. Every action you take, every emotion you feel, and every belief you hold stems from the way you think. If you do not take control of your thoughts, they will control you. The mind is a vast and powerful tool, capable of shaping your reality in ways you may not even realize. But like any tool, if left unchecked, it can become destructive. Thoughts of doubt, fear, and negativity can seep into your subconscious, dictating your actions and leading you down a path of self-sabotage without you even noticing. The way you perceive the world is not based on objective reality, but rather on the lens through which you choose to see it. Two people can experience the same event, yet interpret it in completely different ways based on their mindset. One person sees failure as the end of the road, while another sees it as a stepping stone toward success. One person views challenges as obstacles, while another sees them as opportunities for growth. The difference lies not in the external world, but in the internal framework of their thoughts. Your thoughts create patterns, and those patterns become habits. If you allow your mind to wander aimlessly, filling it with negativity, self-doubt, and destructive narratives, those thoughts will manifest in your life. You may find yourself making excuses, blaming external factors, and feeling powerless in the face of adversity. But the truth is, you are never truly powerless. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you interpret and respond to it. That response is dictated by the quality of your thoughts. If you wake up every morning telling yourself that today will be a struggle, that the world is against you, and that success is out of reach, then that belief will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will act in ways that confirm your own assumptions, limiting your own potential. But if you shift your thinking, if you consciously choose to see opportunities, to embrace challenges as necessary for growth, to believe that your efforts will lead to progress, then your actions will follow suit. The human brain is wired to seek patterns. Whatever you repeatedly tell yourself becomes ingrained in your subconscious, shaping the way you perceive yourself and the world around you. This is why negative self-talk is so dangerous. When you constantly feed yourself thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I always fail, or nothing ever works out for me, your brain starts to accept those statements truth. You begin to act accordingly, avoiding risks, settling for less, and reinforcing the very limitations you fear. The good news is that this process works both ways. Just as negative thoughts can hold you back, positive and constructive thoughts can propel you forward. If you make a conscious effort to control your internal dialogue, replacing self-doubt with self-affirmation and fear with confidence, you begin to reshape your reality. This isn't about blind optimism or ignoring the struggles of life. It's about choosing a perspective that empowers you rather than weakens you. One of the most powerful ways to take control of your thoughts is through self-awareness. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. Notice the thoughts that arise when you face a challenge, when you experience a setback, or when you step outside of your comfort zone. Are those thoughts pushing you forward or holding you back? Are they helping you grow, or are they keeping you stagnant? Awareness is the first step toward change. Once you recognize destructive thought patterns, you can begin to replace them with thoughts that serve you. Another crucial aspect of mastering your thoughts is discipline. Left unchecked, the mind will naturally gravitate toward what is easy, comfortable, and familiar, even if those patterns are harmful. This is why negative thoughts often feel automatic. They don't require effort, they simply arise. But controlling your thoughts requires intentionality. It requires effort, consistency, and practice. You must train your mind the same way you would train your body. Just as you wouldn't expect to build physical strength without regular exercise, you cannot expect mental strength without consistent effort. One of the most effective ways to discipline your mind is through meditation and mindfulness. These practices allow you to step back from the constant chatter of your thoughts and observe them without attachment. Instead of being consumed by every negative idea that enters your mind, you learn to see thoughts for what they are, temporary, fleeting, and within your control. Through mindfulness, you develop the ability to let go of thoughts that do not serve you and replace them with those that align with your goals. Another powerful tool for controlling your thoughts is the practice of reframing. Reframing involves consciously changing the way you interpret situations. Instead of seeing failure as a sign of inadequacy, you reframe it as a lesson that brings you closer to success. Instead of viewing rejection as personal, you see it as redirection. Instead of fearing challenges, you view them as opportunities to grow. By actively changing the way you think about situations, you take control of your mind rather than allowing circumstances to dictate your emotions. The people you surround yourself with also have a significant impact on your thoughts. Yay! If you constantly engage with negativity, whether through the news, social media, or pessimistic individuals, it will influence the way you think. Just as a poor diet affects your physical health, a poor mental diet affects your mindset. Be intentional about what you consume. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to think bigger, who encourage growth, and who reinforce positive beliefs rather than feeding into doubt and fear. Journaling is another practice that can help you gain control over your thoughts. Writing down your fears, worries, and negative beliefs allows you to examine them objectively. Often, when you put your thoughts on paper, you realize how irrational or exaggerated they are. Journaling also helps you track progress, identify recurring patterns, and actively work on replacing destructive thoughts with empowering ones. Your mind is a tool, and like any tool, it must be used with purpose. It is not something that should be left to wander aimlessly, influenced by external circumstances or fleeting emotions. Taking control of your thoughts is not a passive process. It is an active discipline that requires daily commitment. But when you make the effort to guide your thoughts intentionally, you begin to reshape your reality. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It is the foundation of mastery, the force that separates those who achieve greatness from those who merely dream about it. Without discipline, potential remains untapped, ideas remain unfulfilled, and goals remain distant. The ability to impose structure upon yourself to act with intention rather than impulse is what allows you to take control of your life rather than being controlled by fleeting desires, emotions, or external circumstances. At the core of discipline is the ability to delay gratification. The human mind is wired to seek immediate pleasure, to take the path of least resistance, to avoid discomfort at all costs. This is why so many people struggle to break bad habits, stick to routines, or follow through on their goals. The temptation to choose what is easy over what is necessary is ever present. But mastery requires something different. It demands the willingness to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term progress. It requires the ability to say no to distractions, to resist the urge for instant reward, and to remain committed even when motivation fades. Motivation is fleeting. It is unreliable. It comes and goes like the wind, changing with circumstances, emotions, and external factors beyond your control. If you rely on motivation to take action, you will remain inconsistent, making progress only when you feel like it. Discipline, however, is different. Discipline does not care how you feel. It does not wait for the perfect conditions, the right mood, or the ideal circumstances. It demands action regardless of whether you are tired, uninspired, or uncertain. Discipline is the decision to act over and over again, despite discomfort, despite resistance, despite fear. The mind, if left undisciplined, is chaotic. It seeks pleasure, avoids hardship, and rationalizes laziness. It will create excuses, justify procrastination, and convince you that the work can wait until tomorrow. But a disciplined mind operates differently. It is trained to override impulses, to prioritize action over excuses, to push forward even when the path is difficult. This is why discipline is not just about productivity or achieving external success. It is about mastering yourself at the deepest level. It is about taking control of your own mind rather than being a slave to its tendencies. Discipline begins with structure. Without structure, chaos takes over. This is why routines are essential. A structured routine eliminates the need for decision-making in moments of weakness. It removes the temptation to negotiate with yourself. When you wake up at the same time every morning, when you commit to a schedule, when you create systems that support your goals, you remove the opportunity for excuses. You do not ask yourself whether you feel like taking action. You simply do it because it is what you have committed to. Small disciplines compound over time. The tiny choices you make every day, whether you wake up early or sleep in, whether you follow through on your commitments or make excuses, whether you take control of your thoughts or let them control you, determine the trajectory of your life. Discipline is not built in a single moment of willpower, but in the daily repetition of intentional action. Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, you strengthen your ability to do it again. Every time you resist distraction and stay focused, you train your mind to become stronger, more resilient, more capable. Resistance is a natural part of discipline. The mind will resist structure, routine, and effort, especially in the beginning. It will seek comfort, attempt to justify avoidance, and convince you that discipline is unnecessary. But this resistance is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Growth does not happen in comfort. Strength is not built without struggle. The more you push against resistance, the more you develop the ability to act despite it. Self-discipline is an internal battle. It is the conflict between who you are and who you want to be. It is the fight between your higher self, the part of you that wants to grow, improve, and reach your full potential, and your lower self, which seeks ease, pleasure, and escape. Every decision you make strengthens one side or the other. The more you give in to indulgence, procrastination, and distraction, the more power your lower self gains. But every time you choose discipline, every time you push forward, despite resistance, every time you prioritize long-term success over immediate gratification, you strengthen the part of you that is capable of greatness. Discipline requires a deep sense of responsibility. It is the understanding that no one is coming to save you, that no one else is responsible for your growth, your habits, or your success. The world does not owe you discipline. It is something you must cultivate within yourself. This means taking ownership of your time, your actions, and your mindset. It means holding yourself accountable even when no one is watching. It means refusing to make excuses, refusing to blame external circumstances, refusing to allow anything outside of yourself to dictate your actions. The ability to discipline yourself is what gives you true freedom. Many people resist discipline because they see it as restrictive, as limiting, as a burden. But the truth is, a life without discipline is a life of limitation. Without discipline, you are a prisoner to your impulses, your emotions, and your circumstances. Without discipline, you are at the mercy of whatever distractions, temptations, and external pressures pull you in different directions. But with discipline, you gain control. You gain the ability to shape your own life, to direct your own path, to build something meaningful rather than being tossed around by circumstance. Every great achievement, every extraordinary success, every story of transformation is rooted in discipline. It is not talent, luck, or intelligence that determines success. It is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when it is hard. It is the commitment to showing up every day, to putting in the work, to staying focused on the goal despite setbacks, failures, or difficulties. It is the decision to take responsibility for your own progress, to hold yourself to a higher standard, to demand more from yourself than the world demands of you. Fear is the silent force that governs so many aspects of human behavior. It operates in the background, influencing decisions, shaping perceptions, and limiting potential. It is a survival mechanism deeply embedded in the mind, designed to protect from danger. But in the modern world, fear often extends beyond physical threats and manifests self-doubt, hesitation, and avoidance of discomfort. It is not just fear of failure that holds people back, but fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty, fear of stepping outside of what is known and familiar. If left unchecked, fear becomes a prison, confining a person to a life of mediocrity, preventing them from ever realizing what they are truly capable of achieving. The problem with fear is that it distorts reality. It magnifies risks, exaggerates dangers, and convinces the mind that the worst possible outcome is inevitable. It makes simple challenges appear insurmountable, turns minor setbacks into perceived catastrophes, and transforms opportunities into perceived threats. When fear is allowed to take control, it leads to paralysis. Instead of taking action, the mind searches for reasons to avoid risk, to stay within the comfort zone, to retreat rather than advance. This is why so many people remain stuck, because they listen to fear as though it is an authority rather than recognizing it as an illusion. Fear thrives in uncertainty. The unknown is its greatest weapon, because the mind naturally fills in the gaps with the worst possible scenarios. When facing a challenge, a decision, or a new opportunity, the mind will instinctively generate images of failure, embarrassment, and rejection. It will create internal narratives about inadequacy, about why success is impossible, about why it is safer to do nothing than to take the risk of trying. But these thoughts are not reality. They are predictions based on past fears, not on actual future outcomes. And yet, because fear feels so real, people allow it to dictate their choices without ever questioning whether those fears are rational. Overcoming fear requires direct confrontation. Avoidance only strengthens its grip. Every time a person chooses to back away from something that makes them uncomfortable, they reinforce the belief that fear was justified. The mind learns that avoidance is the solution, and as a result, fear grows stronger. But when fear is faced head-on, when a person steps into discomfort rather than running from it, something profound happens. The mind begins to recognize that fear is often an illusion, that the consequences it once imagined were exaggerated, that the risk was never as great as it seemed. Each time fear is confronted, its power diminishes. Action is the most effective antidote to fear. The more a person waits, hesitates, and overthinks, the more fear takes root. But when action is taken, even in small steps, fear loses its grip. The act of doing, of moving forward, despite uncertainty, rewires the brain to see challenges differently. Instead of associating them with danger, the mind starts to associate them with growth. Instead of seeing discomfort as something to be avoided, it begins to see it as necessary for progress. This is why the people who achieve the most in life are not those who never experience fear, but those who refuse to be controlled by it. Fear often disguises itself as logic. It presents itself as caution, as rational thinking, as careful planning. It whispers thoughts like, "I'm just not ready yet," "I need more time," or "it's not the right moment." But in many cases, these thoughts are not logic at all. They are fear in disguise, working to delay action, to create excuses, to keep a person from taking the steps necessary for growth. Recognizing this is crucial because fear will always attempt to masquerade as wisdom. It will attempt to convince a person that inaction is the responsible choice, that playing it safe is the best option, that staying in the comfort zone is the logical thing to do. But the reality is that growth only happens on the other side of fear. The body responds to fear the same way it does to any perceived threat. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, breathing becomes shallow. These physical sensations often reinforce fear, making it feel even more real. But understanding that these responses are just signals from the nervous system rather than actual danger can help in managing them. Instead of seeing a racing heart as a sign of fear, it can be reframed as a sign of excitement, as proof that something important is happening, as an indication that the moment is one of potential rather than peril. Fear of failure is one of the most paralyzing fears, yet failure itself is an essential part of growth. The most successful people in history are not those who avoided failure, but those who embraced it, learned from it, and used it as fuel to keep moving forward. Fear convinces people that failure is a permanent condition, when in reality, failure is only feedback. It is information, a signal that something needs to be adjusted, a necessary step on the path to mastery. The only true failure is allowing fear to prevent action altogether. Fear also thrives on comparison. The more a person looks at the successes of others, the more they begin to fear that they are falling behind, that they are not good enough, that they do not measure up. This comparison creates a false sense of inadequacy, leading to even greater hesitation. But everyone's path is different, focusing on external validation, on the approval of others, on the idea that worth is determined by how one measures up to someone else, only strengthens fear. The only true measure of progress is personal growth, whether today's version of oneself is stronger, wiser, and more disciplined than yesterday's. Fear is not something that disappears on its own. It does not fade with time, nor does it go away by waiting for the perfect conditions. The only way to overcome it is through action, through exposure, through deliberate effort. The mind must be trained to move forward despite fear, to take action in the presence of uncertainty, to refuse to let hesitation dictate the course of life. Every moment of fear presents a choice, to retreat or to advance. And in that choice lies the difference between a life controlled by fear and a life of true freedom. Your thoughts shape your reality. The way you perceive the world, the way you interpret events, and the way you speak to yourself internally all contribute to the reality you experience. The mind is not a passive observer. It is an active participant in the process of shaping your life. If you allow negative, self-defeating, and limiting thoughts to dominate your mind, your life will reflect those patterns. If you cultivate a mindset of resilience, confidence, and possibility, your life will expand in ways you never imagined. What you believe to be true about yourself and the world influences every decision you make, every opportunity you see or miss, and every challenge you either rise to or shrink from. Many people go through life trapped by their own mental narratives. They develop beliefs, often unconsciously, that dictate what they think they are capable of achieving. These beliefs are not necessarily based on objective truth, but on past experiences, societal conditioning, and repeated internal dialogue. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are not smart enough, not talented enough, or not deserving of success, your mind will accept these statements as truth, and your actions will reflect them. You will hesitate, you will sabotage yourself, and you will unconsciously seek evidence to confirm these limiting beliefs. This is why changing your mindset is one of the most powerful things you can do. It alters not just your thoughts, but your entire reality. The way the mind works is based on patterns. If you think a certain way for long enough, your brain creates neural pathways that reinforce that way of thinking. This is why negative thought patterns can become so ingrained. They are the result of years of repetition. But just as these patterns were created, they can be changed. The brain has the ability to rewire itself through intentional effort. This process, known as neuroplasticity, means that you are not stuck with the mindset you currently have. You can reprogram your thinking, but it requires awareness and deliberate practice. The first step in transforming your mindset is recognizing the thoughts that are holding you back. Most people do not even realize how much of their thinking is negative or self-defeating because it has become automatic. Pay attention to the way you talk to yourself, especially in moments of challenge or failure. Do you encourage yourself, or do you criticize yourself? Do you look for solutions, or do you dwell on problems? Do you believe that obstacles are opportunities for growth, or do you see them as evidence that you are not capable? One of the most effective ways to shift your thinking is through the power of language. The words you use both internally and externally shape your perceptions. When you constantly say, "I can't," "I'm not good enough," or "this is impossible," you reinforce a belief system that limits you. But when you begin to shift your language to say, "I am capable, I will figure this out," or "every challenge is an opportunity to grow," you rewire your brain to operate from a position of strength rather than limitation. This is not about blind positivity or ignoring reality. It is about choosing an interpretation of reality that empowers you rather than weakens you. Mindset is also deeply connected to focus. What you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, they will seem larger. If you focus on possibilities, new opportunities will emerge. This is why two people can experience the same event and interpret it in completely different ways. One sees it as a crisis, the other as a challenge to be overcome. Training your mind to focus on solutions rather than problems is one of the most powerful habits you can develop. It does not mean ignoring difficulties, but rather shifting your attention toward what can be done rather than what cannot. Resilience is another key aspect of mindset. Life will test you. You will face setbacks, disappointments, and failures. How you interpret these experiences will determine whether you grow stronger or become defeated. A fixed mindset sees failure as a statement about one's abilities. I failed, therefore I am a failure. A growth mindset sees failure as information. I failed, therefore I learned something that will make me better. This shift in perspective is the difference between those who rise after failure and those who remain stuck. Your environment also plays a significant role in shaping your mindset. The people you surround yourself with, the books you read, the content you consume, all of these factors influence your thinking. If you are constantly exposed to negativity, complaints, and people who reinforce limiting beliefs, it will be difficult to maintain a strong mindset. But if you surround yourself with those who challenge you, who push you to think bigger, who encourage you to grow, your mindset will begin to reflect that. Be intentional about what you allow into your mental space, because it directly impacts the way you think and ultimately the way you live. Another important aspect of mindset is personal responsibility. Many people fall into the trap of blaming external circumstances for their problems. Society, luck, other people. While external factors do play a role, dwelling on them removes your power. A strong mindset is one that takes ownership of life. Instead of saying, I can't do this because of my past, say, I will succeed despite my past. Instead of saying, I don't have the right opportunities, say, I will create my own opportunities. Create my own opportunities. When you shift from a mindset of victimhood to one of ownership, you take back control over your life. Mastering your mindset is not about ignoring reality or pretending that challenges do not exist. It is about developing the ability to see beyond them, to interpret events in a way that strengthens you rather than weakens you, to take control of your own thoughts rather than being controlled by them. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. If you want to change your life, you must first change the way you think. Discipline is the foundation upon which all success is built. Without discipline, talent remains unfulfilled, potential goes unrealized, and dreams fade into regret. It is not enough to have ambition or desire. What separates those who achieve from those who fall short is the ability to consistently take action, regardless of circumstances, emotions, or external obstacles. Discipline is not a single act, but a habit, a way of life, a commitment to doing what is necessary rather than what is easy. It is the bridge between goals and results, between potential and achievement. Most people wait for motivation to strike before they take action, but motivation is fleeting, unreliable, and inconsistent. It comes and goes depending on mood, environment, and external factors. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It does not rely on how one feels in the moment. It is driven by commitment rather than emotion. Those who operate based on discipline rather than motivation understand that success is not about feeling like doing something. It is about doing it regardless of how one feels. It is about setting a standard for oneself and refusing to deviate from it, even when the mind tries to create excuses or rationalizations for procrastination. Discipline begins with small choices. Every decision made throughout the day either strengthens or weakens self-discipline. Hitting the snooze button instead of getting up when planned, choosing instant gratification over long-term benefit, avoiding difficult tasks in favor of easy distractions. Each of these decisions may seem insignificant in isolation, but collectively they define a person's level of discipline. A disciplined person understands that their actions, no matter how small, accumulate over time to determine the direction of their life. They do not make decisions based on temporary comfort. They make them based on long-term growth. One of the biggest misconceptions about discipline is that it is restrictive, that it limits freedom and enjoyment. In reality, discipline is the key to true freedom. A person who lacks discipline is a slave to their impulses, their distractions, their emotions. They are controlled by external forces rather than being in control of themselves. A disciplined person, on the other hand, has the ability to delay gratification, to resist temptation, to stay focused on what truly matters. They are not easily swayed by external circumstances because they operate from a place of internal control. This is why the most successful people in any field are those who have mastered discipline. They have developed the ability to govern themselves rather than being governed by circumstances. Discipline is built through consistency. It is not about occasional bursts of effort, but about sustained commitment. Anyone can be disciplined for a day, a week, or even a month, but true discipline is demonstrated in the ability to maintain effort over the long term. This is what separates those who succeed from those who do not. Persistence in the face of obstacles, consistency in the absence of immediate rewards, and commitment despite temporary discomfort. The results of discipline are not always immediate, but over time they compound into extraordinary achievements. A major challenge in developing discipline is the battle between short-term pleasure and long-term fulfillment. The mind is wired to seek comfort, to avoid discomfort, to gravitate toward what is easy rather than what is difficult. It takes conscious effort to override these impulses, to choose what is necessary over what is convenient. This is why discipline requires a strong why, a deep, compelling reason to stay committed even when the mind resists. When the reason is strong enough, the excuses begin to fade. When the vision is clear enough, the distractions lose their appeal. Discipline is also about mastering one's mind. The greatest enemy of discipline is self-doubt, the internal voice that whispers reasons to quit, to delay, to settle for less. A disciplined person understands that thoughts are not always accurate reflections of reality. They are often just noise, just fleeting impulses trying to derail progress. Learning to observe thoughts without being controlled by them is a crucial skill in developing discipline. It is the ability to acknowledge doubt without succumbing to it, to feel resistance without giving into it, to push forward even when every part of the mind wants to pull back. Environment plays a crucial role in shaping discipline. The people one surrounds themselves with, the habits they cultivate, the distractions they allow into their lives, all of these factors either strengthen or weaken discipline. If surrounded by those who make excuses, who prioritize comfort over growth, who encourage mediocrity, discipline becomes much harder to maintain. But when surrounded by those who hold high standards, who push themselves, who are committed to their goals, discipline becomes the norm rather than the exception. This is why it is important to be intentional about one's environment, to eliminate unnecessary distractions, to create systems that make discipline the default rather than the exception. Self-discipline extends to every area of life: physical health, mental growth, relationships, work, and personal development. It is not confined to one domain, but it's a principle that applies universally. A person who is disciplined in their health is more likely to be disciplined in their work. A person who is disciplined in their learning is more likely to be disciplined in their relationships. Discipline is not something that can be compartmentalized. It is a mindset, a way of operating, a standard that carries over into all aspects of life. Developing discipline is not about being perfect. It is about being committed. There will be moments of failure, moments of weakness, moments where the temptation to give in is overwhelming. But discipline is not about never falling. It is about always getting back up. It is about refusing to let a momentary lapse turn into a permanent habit. It is about continually striving for mastery, continually pushing forward, continually choosing growth over stagnation. Discipline is the key to unlocking potential, to turning dreams into reality, to becoming the person one is truly capable of being. Success is not accidental. It is the result of consistent effort, deliberate action, and an unrelenting commitment to improvement. The people who achieve the most in life are those who understand that growth is not something that happens by chance. It is something that must be pursued with intention. Every individual has potential, but potential alone is meaningless unless it is cultivated. Mastery in any field, whether it be personal development, business, relationships, or physical health, comes from the commitment to continuous learning and self-improvement. Those who stop growing, who become complacent, who believe they already know enough, are the ones who inevitably fall behind. Growth is a never-ending journey, and the moment one stops striving to improve is the moment they begin to decline. Personal growth is often uncomfortable. It requires stepping outside of one's comfort zone, facing challenges, and confronting weaknesses. Many people avoid growth because it forces them to acknowledge where they are lacking. It is far easier to stay in a familiar environment, to repeat the same habits, to stick with what feels safe. But this comfort comes at a cost. The price of avoiding growth is stagnation, mediocrity, and regret. Those who achieve greatness are the ones who are willing to be uncomfortable, who understand that growth requires sacrifice, who are willing to endure temporary difficulty for long-term progress. One of the most important aspects of personal growth is the willingness to learn. The most successful people in any domain are those who never stop educating themselves. They read, they seek mentorship, they ask questions, they remain open to new ideas. They understand that the world is constantly evolving, that new information is always emerging, and that the moment they believe they know everything is the moment they stop growing. Learning is not something that ends after formal education. It is a lifelong pursuit. Those who dedicate themselves to continuous learning always have an advantage over those who do not. Self-awareness is another crucial component of growth. Many people go through life unaware of their own patterns, their own limiting beliefs, and their own self-sabotaging behaviors. They repeat the same mistakes, they fall into the same cycles, and they wonder why their lives do not change. Growth requires brutal honesty with oneself and unflinching willingness to examine personal flaws, weaknesses, and blind spots. Those who achieve the most are those who are not afraid to look in the mirror, to confront their own shortcomings, and to take responsibility for their own improvement. It is not about self-criticism, but about self-examination. Growth begins with the recognition that there is always room to become better. One of the biggest obstacles to personal growth is the fear of failure. Many people avoid taking risks because they are afraid of making mistakes, afraid of looking foolish, afraid of falling short. But failure is not the enemy of growth, it is the fuel for it. Every failure contains valuable lessons, every mistake provides feedback, every setback is an opportunity to learn. Those who fear failure the most are often the ones who grow the least because they never push themselves beyond their current limits. The most successful individuals are those who embrace failure, who see it as part of the process, who use it as a stepping stone rather than a roadblock. Discipline and consistency are essential for growth. Many people start strong but lack the persistence to follow through. They get excited about improving themselves, but when the initial motivation fades, they revert to old habits. Growth does not come from occasional effort. It comes from sustained action over time. It requires daily commitment, a relentless focus on progress, and the discipline to keep going even when results are not immediate. Those who develop the habit of consistent effort, who show up every day and put in the work, are the ones who ultimately see the greatest transformation. The environment one chooses plays a significant role in personal growth. Surrounding oneself with people who challenge, inspire, and push toward greater heights is one of the most powerful ways to accelerate progress. Too often, people remain in environments that reinforce bad habits, negative thinking, and complacency. If one is surrounded by those who do not value growth, who do not strive for more, who discourage ambition, it becomes much harder to maintain momentum. The most successful people are intentional about their surroundings. They seek out mentors, they associate with high achievers, and they distance themselves from those who hinder their progress. Growth also requires a strong sense of purpose. Those who are most committed to improvement are often driven by something greater than themselves. They have a vision, a mission, a deep-rooted reason for wanting to become better. When challenges arise, when obstacles appear, when progress feels slow, this sense of purpose serves as a guiding force. Without a clear why, it is easy to lose motivation, to drift aimlessly, to settle for less than one is capable of achieving. But with a powerful purpose, setbacks become temporary and struggles become fuel for greater achievement. Another key element of personal growth is adaptability. The world is constantly changing, and those who refuse to change with it are the ones who fall behind. Rigidity and resistance to change are barriers to progress. Those who thrive are those who are willing to adjust, to learn new skills, to embrace new ways of thinking. Adaptability is not about abandoning principles or values. It is about recognizing when evolution is necessary. The greatest achievers are those who stay ahead of the curve, who remain open-minded, and who see change not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Personal growth is not about perfection. It is not about never making mistakes or never experiencing setbacks. It is about continuous improvement, about striving to be better today than yesterday, about refusing to settle for less than one's full potential. It is a journey that never truly ends because there is always another level to reach, always another lesson to learn, always another challenge to overcome. Those who commit themselves to lifelong growth unlock a level of success, fulfillment, and impact that others never experience.